Bill Armstrong made it very clear yesterday that he doesn't build ranks, he builds teams.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. This is Locked On Coyotes, your number one daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes. I am your host, Robyn, Leano, alongside Matthew Jacobson. We want to thank everyone for making the show your first listen every day. We are free and available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM radio app. Coming back from the weekend, Matthew, where the Arizona Coyotes made a pretty decent amount of noise over the opening of free agency period.
Yeah, they went ahead and signed everyone. Remember when players don't like Mullet Arena? They'll never sign here. The Coyotes will never get free agents to want to come here. Jason Zucker, which I don't remember if I said publicly, because I remember there was one Twitter back and forth, just a conversation, not a debate or anything, that I was like, hey, they should look at Zucker. And then I saw he scored more than 20 goals. I'm like, maybe that one doesn't work. But I thought that was a good idea to want to target a guy like him. He literally complimented the opposing locker rooms. It was like, yeah, we had a little place to kick a soccer ball and get a little sunshine. I thought players didn't want to be here. We got 3 guys coming back for second and third rounds. Not round picks like this second or third time being Coyotes. We have former Maple Leafs. We got there's 6 players they signed a couple of days ago, day one of free agency. Are you kidding me? But remember, nobody wants to play at Mullet. Nobody wants to play for this garbage franchise that, for the love of God, Gary needs to get rid of it. Gary needs to move this garbage organization. They can't get players. They're icing an ECHL roster. And they got to overpay for that.
But despite that, players still keep coming back. It's awesome. Like, coming back or coming in. I think Zucker was the first one to drop, I think.
And that was such a shocker. Did you have that on your bingo card? Like, inside sources, no inside sources, just looking at free agency. Did you have Jason Zucker on your bingo card coming to Arizona? Day one of all things.
No, absolutely not. Especially in the first couple hours too. Usually usually might be that could be something that could maybe drop at I don't know, hour time, 3 p.m. Just kind of just oh yeah, you know what? Why not? But it just gets oh wow, they did this and they did it fast, and then and again, it's a good pickup. It's a great pickup for the Arizona Coyotes.
Yeah, over 20 goals last year. Well, I want to double check. He had 20 some odd goals. I think 48 points in 78 games. Yep, 48 points in 78 games. Remember when he was considered to be a terrible contract, and then it just took a bounce back year? It's a contract year, but 1 year, $5.3 million. Richie said it pretty well. There's no such thing as a bad 1 year contract. There isn't. Worst case scenario, he sucks. He's gone in a year. Best case scenario, he plays really well, elevates your team. You can flip that for an asset. You can flip that, or you can use that to try to leverage pushing for a playoff spot and actually having a more competitive team. Or if he plays well enough, but you're not near the playoffs, 50% retainment, free assets. You could probably get as high as a second, depending on what he brings.
Yep, and one of the things that that I think that Armstrong's Bill Armstrong said he liked about Zucker. He's a little more gritty. He's a little more physical out there. And again, what do we say about what Bill Armstrong likes?
Does anyone else feel like Bill Armstrong wears T-shirts made of sandpaper? Because all he cares about is big, tough, grinding, old school hockey. His underwear is probably sandpaper. Is that man not looking a little more like raw every time we see him? It's because it's nothing but sandpaper. This man lives, breathes, eats bathes in just that middle to bottom sixer grind, old school style of hockey, and anything that gets him that, he's going to get up in the morning and say, I'll give you a contract. That's a good player. We're going to go get ourselves a player that will grind.
I just love anytime we hear about Armstrong talk. He's a very fun. He has some fun quotes for sure.
And also, you always, I don't know if I can speak for you. I think I can, but confirm or deny. It's so easy to forget arena stuff when he talks, and it's just hockey. And it's just, you're comfortable just focusing on hockey when that man speaks.
Oh yeah, because I think he knows very well that is his focus. His focus is on bringing together and icing a good hockey team. The last couple of years, he knew you knew what the team was. It's a rebuilding team's like, all right, we're not going to worry about competing right now, but he's focusing on getting ready to compete. I mean, he said it we heard about those sources saying, hey, we hear they're getting ready to become more competitive, and he is acting on those reports and making it known. And again, and every time, and like you said, every time he talks and every time from when it came to the draft, before the draft, after the draft, free agency, you just know it's just all hockey with him.
Yep, all hockey, all old school grind, but it's very consistent, just on ice product. And look, it's been very refreshing the last week or so to oh hey, draft, free agency, hockey. I kind of feel like the arena thing's been so far in the background. It's been so nice. It's been great. We love Bill Armstrong here. You know who else we love here? We love players that want to play here. We got 3 players that came back. All right. We have the person who I freaked out about, Alex Galchenyuk. You got Nick Bukestad, another 2-year deal, and Troy Stecher, another year. Guys returning. All right. I know on the other half of the break, we are going to get really deep in this, but I want to set the groundwork here. How important is it for the franchise to have guys that want to be here so badly? They come back. They could have gone anywhere, and they choose to come back to Arizona.
And we'll get to that on the other side of this break.
We got to talk about FanDuel. All right, well, let's go ahead and talk about FanDuel. Take your first swing at betting MLB on FanDuel and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. If you bet just $20, you'll add $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting on everything from money line to over-under, or who you think is going to get the first home run. All on the app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Plus, when you win, you can get paid instantly. That's a bonus. There's no better place to bet MLB than FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So sign up today. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Get up to $200 bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of Major League Baseball.
So yes, Matt, the Coyotes did bring back 3 players who wanted to come back here. I think the one that really that I love the most was bringing back Nick Bukestad, because you look how well he played last year, and he played well to the point in which it's like, hey, just gonna up his trade value, and it's gonna trade him away. That's essentially what his role is this year. But he still loved playing for the Coyotes. He chooses to come back after getting traded. I love it.
Wasn't he being scratched? He was playing so well, they stopped playing him for 2 or 3 games before the trade ended up happening? Or was he one of the ones that wasn't scratched? There was a couple of players that they were playing too well as he had him held out. But
yeah, I think it might have been. I think it might have been him alongside Chikrin who were being scratched constantly.
He was talking about wanting to be on the ground floor of what they're building here and saying that they're heading in the right direction. He wants to be a part of that and help in any way that he can. He believes in this team, in this young core. The fact that you got a veteran guy that wants to be here for 2 more years, which means he'd be here for the remainder of the contractually obligated time at Mullet Arena. And he elected into that. He could have opted out, went anywhere else, chose to be here. chose to buy into the hockey we got going on here. That gets me excited. He was almost a 20-goal scorer out of nowhere. A second-line center for no reason. Now, let's temper expectations a little bit. We had the first-line center, Travis Boyd, for a year. Let's not expect second-line center Nick Bjugstad, but if he can pot another 12, 13 goals for the Coyotes, are any of us going to complain? I don't think so.
If you can get a second, if you can get a middle six guy, it's just a middle six guy who can do that, to complement, top line Clayton Keller, who's going to get 20 to 30 goals in a season. Like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to take it any day of the year.
Yeah. And then Troy Stecher was a surprisingly solid piece of the defense. Also a good veteran guy. Also kind of acts a little bit as a roadblock so that way you don't have to force Soderstrom. I do feel like Soderstrom was playing well at the end of the season, but if they want him to take what he was doing there and then show it at the AHL level for another half season or so, you get that accomplished with him, or you carry Soderstrom as your 6/7th defenseman. You have him in and out of the lineup and have a guy like Troy Stecher kind of help guide him along. I like that from even that perspective, let alone the fact that he was defensively sound last season.
Oh, 100%. And I think it's just, I think in general, and again, and you just said it, it's just the overall attitude that he had as well as everyone else had, right? It's just that they come back to the Coyotes and they see what they're building. I'm trying to see because I think Stecher had some quotes too. I know I had some lined up from Bjugstad. Can't see but still, regardless, I think it still says something about the Coyotes that they're bringing back guys who are good role players, good, can potentially and can help build that competitiveness, and just that they still have a good, enough of a good culture to want to bring them here, because like you said like we said earlier in that first segment, right? People were saying like, oh, there's no culture, the culture is bad, the arena is bad, this is bad, that is bad. Then why do they keep coming back?
I mean, I was having a personal conversation yesterday, and the group of friends that I was among suggested it was the college girls that brought everyone back. But I wanted to spread a little bit of lighthearted humor here. I think it was Bjugstad to get a little serious about the culture. I think it was Bjugstad that was talking about going into it. This is a market, it's a team, it's a franchise that everyone downplays. They trash talk. They say that this is not where you want to play. It's a terrible place to play. And then you actually get here, and the culture is completely different. And I owe a lot of that to Coach Bear, to Bill Armstrong, a lot of the work they've done to make this a better place to play hockey. And I still agree with Bill Armstrong. This is probably the best place to, at least market-wise, to play hockey, because you can show up to practice with a polo and flip-flops. We heard that by multiple players and draft picks.
Something that would be fun. That'd be fun. So, for example, in the Vegas Golden Knights inaugural year, do you remember the nickname that some people gave them because it was an expansion team of like people that no one really cared about, and then they all of a sudden just started winning? They called them the Golden Misfits.
Yep.
The nickname for the Coyotes, are the Desert Dogs. We're just call them the Desert Misfit. Obviously still desert team, but they can also be, a pair of misfits, because they're just, because again, they're going to a team that gets downplayed so much that people just kind of look them over, but they're just gonna freaking, surprise everybody.
I like the Island of Forgotten Yotes. We gotta do something a little more original than just steal the Misfits, because
I'm not saying
better than that. We are better than that.
I'm not saying use it exactly, but I'm saying like use something of that kind of like mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we also like. I think I'm stealing another Steve Peters take on this one, where he's like, if you look at our taglines, it's always like hockey the hard way, scratch it and claw, and stuff like that, where we have the identity of a scrappy underdog, and it works. We're Desert Dogs, we're Coyotes, so an underdog works. But I love how it's showing the culture's changing, and it's changing rapidly, because when you have players even admitting, the word essentially is this is not the place you want to be, and then you show up and it's a completely different experience for you, that's when the word begins to change. And I do believe Richie, my old co-host, said it pretty well when it came. I think we were talking about prospects specifically, where it's, hey, you get a guy like Logan Cooley. He's coming here. He's playing with Clayton Keller. He's enjoying the environment. He goes back to wherever he's playing, and he tells those kids, hey, Arizona's where you want to be. And at every single level, you're getting players that are a little more warm to the idea of playing in Arizona, and it starts here. It starts with the culture that they're reinventing, and wherever this new building goes up, I would not be surprised if the atmosphere is close to what we were doing over at America West Arena with the kind of ground up culture shift they're going for. Plus, this is going to be a fun team even this year, and I feel like there was a valid criticism last year. Very, very brief tangent. Very valid criticism last year. If the team was not designed to be that good, then the ticket prices were kind of unfair to an extent. Well, Now you're taking that next step forward, in my opinion, kind of justifying them a little bit more so, meaning you're probably going to get more Coyotes fans, more excited Coyotes fans that are there for the chance to watch a winning product. And even if they're not a playoff team next year, we know where they're headed.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the most important part of a rebuilding team. Like, you can drag on the rebuild all you want and then all of a sudden surprise everybody, or you can make those slow incremental steps to, prove that you need to you're going in that right direction. I see positives to both sides. However, for the Coyotes' sake, it's that incremental that I think is what is necessary for them to, I think, really plant themselves permanently here. And again, as you and I have mentioned, we both strongly believe that they're just not going anywhere regardless. However, I do think that a method like that in building a team will just kind of help push that narrative a little bit better.
Yeah, and also if you can start creating a bit of a bandwagon heading into the new building, it also helps generate more excitement. And I feel like we've completely skipped over Alex Galchenyuk, who I completely freaked out about. I was screaming. I love Alex Galchenyuk. Look, I will be blunt. We won the Galchenyuk trade, and whenever Gally came here, you could tell the coach wasn't the biggest fan of him. They couldn't consistently find a line for him to play on. He was literally a ping pong ball or a pinball ball, just bouncing around line to line, and he still was tied for most goals in the team that year with 19. Goes away, comes back, solid, middle to bottom Sixer season, not the greatest season. He's still a hardworking guy. That's going to be a guy that if he plays in Tucson, which he probably will, it's a 2-way contract, 1-year 2-way contract. I will make my way down to Tucson a few more times to watch this guy play. I love Gally that much. He's a really, really solid, hardworking player that I feel like does not get enough appreciation in this market. And he also never sold his house. So when he came back last time, he still hasn't now. Never sold his house because he sees the Valley as his home. I really want this dude to crack the roster. And look, Liam O'Brien is very useful when you want a little extra sandpaper. I want him to kick O'Brien out of the lineup, X amount of games, because you want him for certain matchups and whatnot, because I'm really high on this guy. He probably plays a lot in Tucson, but I'm never going to not like Alex Galchenyuk, and I am ecstatic that he is back in the Valley.
I do also think that Alex Galchenyuk can potentially have a better role with this Coyotes team than in because remember, the team that he joined was there was very little talent. Right? It was a bad team, outside of the core players. It was a bad team. Like, there's no way that he could have even produced even remotely close. And again, I'm not saying saying that Galchenyuk looked bad because of that. Because look, he went down, like he kind of had a down couple season, down season or whatever it was after he left the Yotes the first time. But I just feel like maybe with a different culture, a different kind of players you're moving, a more competitive team, maybe can push him a little bit.
He'll also have better players to play with in Tucson because you're going to have more prospects going through the system. And I imagine Zuber plays in Tucson this year.
If he plays in Tucson, I think he can be like the perfect dad to those like
he's the dad of the team. You're pushing 30. Where's your bald spot? You gotta wear your khakis and flip flops to practice and tell all the horrible dad jokes.
I love it.
Hey, Gally, I don't mean any offense, but you're old now. Do you want to talk about the last major signing? We also had, was it Matt Villalta, who's going to be the goaltender to kind of 23-year-old goaltender, had good numbers last year at the Ontario Reign.
Mm-hmm.
He's probably going to light a fire underneath Ivan, and I really hope that is the case. This needs to be the year Ivan breaks through, and I'm really hoping that this helps. It'll be a lot better than Gillies. Nothing, again, I've said it before, nothing against John Gillies. I just don't have an opinion on the guy because he was so forgettable. I think that's a much better idea to bring someone in. Then you also log jam your prospect pool. The goaltending is gonna look very different. Mm-hmm. But they signed Alex Kerfoot.
Alex Kerfoot too. I was like it was funny because I think like a lot of people were like, after like much of the signings, they started putting together like lines and they're like, ooh, this actually looks like a good team. And then all of a sudden the Coyotes throw their curveball, Alex Kerfoot, like, oh my God, where do we put him now?
I thought it was a $3.5 million total. It's $3.5 million a year. And here's the thing. He is, from what I can tell, I did not watch his game in Toronto because he's a Toronto player. I don't care. But looking at his stats, kind of getting a feel for how people think of him, this is a good middle six guy. What is it? 10 goals, 22 assists, 32 points last year in all 82 played, or he at least played in 80 games last year with Toronto. Right. This is a good player. And if he can take the step forward, again, I'm gonna kind of steal something from Steve Peters. If he could take a step forward that Bill probably thinks he can, he might go as high as the second line, depending on how things play out. Middle six guy. The fact that there's going to be this much competition, like I was looking at the top 9 that Steve Peters posted, and obviously it's probably going to be accurate to an extent where the top 9 is actually going to be. This is the best top 9 I've seen since they made the playoffs back in 2020. Like, and they were leading the division for what was like a month that playoff year before things started to go down towards the end of it. Like, they had a good top 9, and I think this is the best it's looked since then. And again, they're not guaranteed to make the playoffs or anything. I do think they're going to hover around the wild card spot longer this year. I do think they're going to keep continuing to build. It's going to be a much better season. But that being said, make sure you're keeping the expectations realistic. Enjoy it.
We have to make sure those expectations are tempered, because we don't want to go into a winning attitude too soon, because then that will kind of, I think, hurt the rebuild more.
To an extent, but I also I'm gonna hope, and I'll just throw this out here as a concept. I'm gonna hope that, remember how last year even the people within our own market, Craig, Steve, all them, had us finishing bottom 3 in the league, and I was like one of the few people that was like, I don't see them being bottom 3.
I mean, I said that on Locked On Coyotes before you showed up. It was
this is literally we were perfect as co-hosts.
We used our over. We used our over on like the total points. We had a total points segment, and it was like, hey, here's their total points according to the sports book is like 60 whatever points, and I was like, no, they're going under. They're going under, and they ended up going over, and I was like, I'm eating my words. It's gonna change. I think this year. At this point, I'm like, I don't even know. They're gonna be better, that's for sure. But I don't even know.
But we need to keep the same energy. Is what I want to say. Is because remember, even the people that we trust, that they know their stuff. Craig, Steve, they know their stuff. Mm-hmm. They thought this team was gonna be bottom 3. I'm one of the weird wild cards. Like, nah, I don't see that, and they ended up surprising a lot of people. We need that energy back. So if Craig, Petey, any of them watch our show, and anybody that's like has a podcast or anything watches this show, rank this team bottom 5 in the league. I want you to pick apart the lineup. I want you to say X player is going to get hurt. X player is going to underperform. This guy was on a contract series. I want you to say all of that. So that way, like, the scrappy underdog can continue to be the mindset here in the market, and then we'll see them like 6 points shy of the second wild card spot at the end of the season. And like that's how I want this to play out, because I kind of feel like if you I'll steal like a concept from the new Spider-Man or the newer Spider-Man movie. It's like, if you expect to be disappointed, you can't be disappointed. So like, I want the surprises to keep coming. So I need everyone else to keep saying it's gonna be a bottom 5 team. I need the narratives to be consistent, bottom 5, so we can have a little fun with it and be pleasantly surprised.
I'm with you on it. I'm 100% with you on it. I love that. I love that. Like, I know some people might say is like, why do that? Because you're, if the team actually has good expectations, you should realistically say what the expectations are. But you're just like, you know what? I love the attitude of, that again. You said it based off some of the quotes, some of like the taglines that the Coyotes have had in the past. Of course, my favorite was scratching and clawing, because I was like, that was a great one.
It was good for a shirt.
I think someone. Did I see someone with a shirt, or did someone offer me a shirt with one of those? I can't remember. Maybe. But it was great. I so I'm with you on that. I'm with you on having, and again, tempered expectations. And I'm not, which means not necessarily I'm going to say they're going to finish bottom X, but I'm like, they might finish here,
Did they finish just shy of 30 wins last year, or did they reach 30 wins last year? Because I wanted them to hit around 30 to be about a 5-game improvement heading into last season. I think it was 28 or 29. I think it was just shy of that.
Let me.
It feels like so long ago.
I know, right?
Feels like so long ago.
Just shy. They had 28 wins.
So let's say like I would like 33. About 32, 33.
Incremental
just keep
growth.
Improving.
It's incremental growth.
Mm-hmm. About 5 extra wins a season. That's what I want. That's what 25 wins to last year. I wanted 30. You missed out by 2. About 5 extra wins. Keep the constant.
This is why
forward step.
This is why I love having like an actual intellectual conversation about incremental growth, because there are other shows out there for other teams, and I won't say who because I don't want to go ahead and out these people, but
I will.
Where it's still a rebuilding team, and they're like, you know what? This team's gonna make it the playoffs. This team's gonna make it run for, and I'm just like, are you a little delusional? Or even something like this, where it's like a team that's still rebuilding, and they're like, you know what? You're playing the Coyotes. This is a gimme win, and I'm like, okay, dude, like,
keep that energy, because again, we're scratching and clawing. That's what this team does. They literally die, and then like the Undertaker, they stiff right back up and grab you by the neck. Like that's just I don't get it. I don't know how the hell anyone in this organization is left standing. I don't know how the fans are still here, because we're constantly on the brink of death.
I didn't hear no bell.
I didn't hear no bell. Dude, you died. I saw you die. What do you mean? That's this team. That's this franchise. That is the heart and soul of this organization. I think that's also why I've said it before. I'll say it again. People outside of it just don't get it, because y'all are a bunch of spineless cowards that will complain because your team's on a 3-game losing streak. Yeah, we made the playoffs once technically in the last 11 years, and we're still here. Like, we love this team, and this team will win a Stanley Cup. Y'all had your spirits broken after your goalie gave up 4 goals in 1 game.
Absolutely love it. And I'll go on this final thought. On this final thought, we were just been talking about the Arizona Coyotes and how positive we are thinking. I'm going to ask you this question. Maybe it was mentioned, but I'm not sure. But do you draw up the Coyotes as a winner in this free agency?
I have to, because of the mindset behind all these, because you have the culture guys, you have the guys that literally said in plain text, yeah, this wasn't really a market that you see of as being all that great, but you come here and the atmosphere is great, the team's great. I love playing here, getting guys coming back. You're getting guys like Zucker that were kind of influenced by that, showing that a higher caliber of player wants to come here. Jason Zucker is not a nobody. Alex Kerfoot is not a nobody. And we're starting to get those players interested in coming here and existing veterans coming back. This has to be a win. I don't see a scenario in which this is a loss because no matter what, and Bill Armstrong said it very well, they want guys that are going to help the team right now, but contracts that aren't going to hurt them in 3 years. These are all short-term deals. What's the worst that's going to happen? Oh, no, Zucker didn't play well. You overpaid him for 1 year, and now it's off your cap. They won. I can't see a losing scenario here. I'm sorry. I just can't.
All they've done is make low risk, potentially very high reward, which is great.
Yeah,
I love it.
It's so much better than other free agencies we've had. It's so much nicer.
I mean, the last couple of free agencies, I was like in a free agency period, I was just going through like, I don't even know what to analyze. I don't even know where we're going with this. I was lost for words. Like, what do we do?
But I didn't even know we were going to talk about free agents today. I thought we were going to have like 2 signings in the first couple days. I did not expect anything on day one except for like maybe Jack McBain or Matthias Michelli, like a re-signing. That's I'm speechless.
Well, we'll go ahead and close things off, though. We'll maybe get some other thoughts. We'll get some experts to talk about free agency. Get some other experts to talk about the Coyotes' recent draft picks. As much as we can, so you guys can get a bunch of different perspectives rather than just ours. I know, a lot of you guys listen to us. You can trust our opinions, but we try to diversify the voices you hear on this show. But that's going to be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you have yet to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcasts, including on YouTube and the SiriusXM radio app. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter at LO_Coyotes. I'm personally at Robyn_Leano. Matthew Jacobson is at the AZ Sports Guy. Interact with us, ask a question you might have. We might answer right back or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys staying safe out there. Hope you guys staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.